Mike Florio. Yup, we're going there. He claimed Joe Burrow would have refused to play for the Bengals if he wasn't from Ohio. Now, he's claiming this based on when they drafted him. So not like he would refuse to play right now after, 5 years in the league, the offensive line being pretty subpar, the front office making their mistakes. Obviously now, a lot better after signing Chase and T. But that's what he's talking about. He's talking about when they first drafted him. If it wasn't for the fact he's from Ohio, he would not have played for the team. His exact quote is going to be this. I'll mention it, and Bengals fans don't like it. But I'm going to, let me move this over to the right hand side. There we go. I'll mention again. If Joe Burrow was from Athens, Georgia, and not Athens, Ohio, he would have refused to play for the Bengals. Now, there's only a certain amount of quarterbacks in NFL history who have refused to play for the team that drafted them. Now, one is going to be John Elway, which obviously, in the end, he said he'd rather play pro baseball than play for the Baltimore Colts. He then gets traded to the Denver Broncos. Fantastic career, multiple Super Bowls, you name it. Eli Manning got drafted to the San Diego Chargers. Did not want to play for the Chargers. Ended up getting traded to the New York Giants in a weird flipperoo trade. But other than those two guys, hasn't been anybody else. And rightfully so. When someone gets drafted to a team, no matter how good or bad the team is, you play for the team. That's just kind of how it works. You don't sit there, you don't piss a fit, you don't throw a tantrum, you go play for the team. Now, when we were rumored to be taking Joe Burrow number one, there's a lot of people who said he's going to refuse to play. He's not going to play. He's going to sit out. He's going to say he doesn't want to play for the Bengals. But at the end of the day, that's the beautiful thing about football. This is why we don't have the NBA lottery system when it comes to how our, draft works. How our draft works is the worst team gets the best pick. The best team gets the worst pick. It's the idea of you want to make the bad teams good and the good teams, have to kind of fight more to continue to be good. That's just kind of how the system works. And it works very well. So this idea that he wouldn't play for us if it wasn't for, again, him being from Ohio is just stupid. It really is. Because at the end of the day, you play for the team that drafts you. Again, John Elway happened, back in 1970 something or 80s? I think it was 80s. Very long time ago. Eli Manning did happen in 2000 something, but still. But if we go back to Joe Burrow's draft, right? And let me pull up his draft and how it ended up shaking out. If the Bengals didn't take Joe Burrow, okay? So let's say, for example, Joe Burrow said before the draft, I'm not playing for the Bengals. I don't want to do it. Okay, so who would be the next team to draft Joe Burrow? Washington? At the time, in 2020, Washington, who did they have at quarterback? They were 7-9 in the division. So actually pretty decent, to be honest. That was actually not that bad. Obviously, ownership wise was Dan Snyder, which was a cluster fluff of a team. And I actually want to see real fast who was their starting Commanders 2020 depth chart. So let's see. In 2020, the Commanders quarterback was Alex Smith. Okay. So they're not going to take a quarterback if they have Alex Smith. And Alex Smith at the time was 36 years old. So they could have, said, hey, we're going to go for the future here. But most likely they wouldn't have gone for him. So that wasn't really an option. Detroit. 2020 Detroit might be kind of hilariously bad, in all honesty. All right, hold up. If I go, okay, next season, how do I change the team? Never mind. I can just click on the team. I'm an idiot. There we go. Detroit was 5-11. Definitely was not the greatest team of all time at the time. They did have, I believe 2020, they still had Stafford, right? Yep, they still had Matthew Stafford. He was 32 years old. So I don't even think they would have, they wouldn't even took Joe Burrow. I don't think they would have. I mean, they could have, technically, they could have traded him away. But next team would have been New York, the Giants, who were 6-11 at the time. And again, I don't think the G-men at the time would have been that fantastic. I mean, maybe they would have obviously figured things out and put things in the correct direction with having Joe Burrow on the roster. At the time, they had Danny Dimes. They just drafted him. They're probably not taking a quarterback. It's possible, but they probably had some faith in the rookie Daniel Jones. Although we did get him 6-10, which obviously isn't the nicest. Miami could have took him. So maybe that would have worked out a little bit better, but that was Miami before they had Tua and had, not Tua, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and all those other guys. So 2020 roster, they had Devontae Parker. They went 10-6 that year, actually, ironically enough. But they had Deontay Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki. That would have been hilarious. He would have actually started his career with Mike Gesicki. And Tua, a quarterback. But we're coming off of a 10-6 record. So maybe Miami would have been a decent landing spot. But it would have been either Cincinnati or Miami as the two potentials, or the Chargers. Because Carolina probably wasn't taking a quarterback. Arizona, and I don't think he would have dropped that far. So between Cincinnati, the Chargers, or the Miami Dolphins, I mean, in the end, you got to look at it. It's like, what's the best landing spot? Obviously, these three teams, I would definitely say it would have I don't know. I guess it would have probably been Miami. But then you got to think the Bengals did also take T. Higgins in the second round. So you automatically get Joe Burrow a weapon right away. I don't know if I agree with Miami being the best spot. I think overall wise, if he wasn't from Ohio, right, and like he was like Eli Manning here, and he's like, I don't want to play for the Bengals, which again, Joe would have never been. It's also a character thing. I feel like it's not just the player entirely. It's like a character of like your personality, who you are as a person, whether or not you're going to go play for a team. It's not just about, it's like if you're cocky, arrogant, and, preppy, and you're like, I want the band, then yeah, you're probably going to piss a fit about it. But there's a reason why only two quarterbacks have ever done it. I think if Joe Burrow was from a different state, he would have still played for the Bengals. 100%. That's how I look at it in the end. Obviously, Miami Chargers would have been interesting locations for him as well. But I disagree with Florio here. I disagree with him. I think he still would have played for the Bengals no matter what. I don't think Joe Burrow is not the type of guy to refuse to play. He's not the type of guy who says, I'm not going to play for this team because this team's not the best. Because at the end of the day, again, that's just how the NFL works. Thankfully, we're not the NBA. We're the NFL. And how our draft works is the worst teams get the best picks. But tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. Maybe I'm crazy. Peace out, guys.